And one of the things about the chess player that I absolutely love, and it's kind of like a love-hate relationship, to be honest with you, is they will be the ones that once you give an answer, they will say, so then what's next? You give an answer. So once that's done, what's next? And if you don't have an answer, don't worry. Guess what? They gave you an opportunity. They will tell you what the next 3 steps should be.
Welcome to MetaGagement, the HR show that dives deep into the heart of employee engagement and workplace culture. Your hosts, Ann Scottlin and Dr. Lyman Montgomery, bring you a groundbreaking show that explores innovative strategies and insights to transform and elevate your organization's HR practices. Dr. Montgomery is an employee engagement expert and best-selling author, while Ann Scottlin is an acclaimed business consultant and podcaster. Together, they will unpack the complexities of modern HR challenges and reveal innovative solutions that can be immediately applied to your workplace. Please welcome Ann Scottlin and Dr. Lyman Montgomery.
Hi, welcome back to MetaGagement-HR, the show where we are helping make the possible probable for you, the HR expert, for you, the HR leader. Good morning, Lyman. Good afternoon.
Good morning, afternoon, wherever you're watching this. It's morning somewhere.
There you go. So glad to see you here today. And
Likewise.
How's your weekend been?
It was actually wonderful. Absolutely fantastic.
Nice. Very good. I know it's, I think I mentioned this morning when we were on another recording that we have some rescued mice, which is probably like the funniest thing I've ever said. And that fell out of a nest in the garage and couldn't fix it. And so, what do you do? Well, I know the practical thing to do, but that's not us. So we're bottle feeding a couple of mice. Like, honor life where you find it, right? Until some time determines otherwise. So yeah, that's been the crazy.
I'm on the opposite extreme. Matter of fact, I got an exterminator coming because we have this little mouse that is terrorizing my wife, and so God bless you. You're trying to take care of the poor mice, and we trying to get rid of the mouse.
Well,
now, if it leaves, hey, fine. We just don't want it in the house.
As long as you're live trapping and releasing, I'm good with it. But don't tell me. Okay. So we go into, we're not talking about mice personas today. We are talking about humans here on part 3 of our 5 persona type architecture. This is our assessment that we've created specifically for MetaGagement, for HR professionals in particular. And here on MetaGagement, our primary goals is to help you foster resilience and adaptability in HR, not just in your work, but for yourself as an HR leader. We really try to dive deep into how you can work within your teams to find advanced engagement strategies, actionable insights, and use these practical steps along with our favorite thing, which is neuroscience, doing it smarter and making it easier. So no point in pushing the cart up the hill, which is often what it feels like, right?
Absolutely.
If you're just joining us today, please help us out. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and most of all, leave us a comment. Thank you for all of you who've been leaving comments. We love answering your questions and comments on the air when we can. So please send in your questions or topic suggestions that you'd like to see us cover. So far, we have covered 2 of the 5 personas. Cheerleader, construction worker, and they're also chess player, commander, and chemist. And today we are talking about the chess player persona. Yes. Do you play chess, Lyman?
I play at it. I'm not any good at it, but I do understand it. So I wouldn't consider myself a chess player, but I do understand the game.
That's half the battle, right? It's like everyone who got so excited, and that includes me, because I'd never really paid much attention to chess. I always loved the idea of chess. And then that show came out on Netflix, The Queen's Gambit with Anna Taylor-Joy, and I was just sold hopelessly, trying to learn chess on my phone. My husband did a cool thing. He went out and bought us a chessboard because he's decent at it, and I want to learn. He bought an electronic chessboard that helps teach you how to make the moves. So you have it out, you lay it out, and it will like blink. You can turn on different levels of support or no support, or it can give you clues. So it's really kind of fun, but still a board. Like you're not just playing online, which I know is fun, but I love the idea of sitting in a chair with pieces. Like that's pretty awesome. And so one of the personas in our architecture, in our 5 persona types, is the chess player. How do you define the chess player, Lyman?
When you think of the chess player is that strategic, analytical. This person will excel at meticulous types of work. Um, they love the next step. These are the type of people, if you're having a conversation, my wife, for example, is a chess player, where in her conversations, she's probably 2, 3, 4 moves ahead of you. These folks love to anticipate the next step. And so oftentimes when you're in a conversation with a person who has a chess player persona, they will ask very deep analytical questions. But then by the time you start answering them, they've already moved on. So they approach a problem with a very calculating mindset, and they want to ensure that every single move serves a purpose. So they don't like to waste a lot of time.
So they like short, cryptic answers. Is that what you're saying?
Because they're formulating their next move. So people that tend to be interrogators, detectives, attorneys, investigators, auditors, generally have a chess player persona because they have to anticipate the next move. And so they're not the type that's very transactional. You have some people tell me what to do, and then they sort of sit there and cross their arms and say, well, I was waiting for you to tell me the next step. The chess player, they're 3, 4, 5 moves ahead of you.
And that's fun for them. Which is what we highlighted last week too, is it's something that comes naturally. Now, what makes our assessment a little different from traditional assessments, which is overall personalities, which also have a lot of validity, a lot of helpful points. But ours is about the persona that you bring into your workplace specifically. As we talked about last time, Michael Jackson seemed like this very gregarious, outgoing, popular person, but actually behind the scenes, he was quiet and shy and a very different person. So what is the persona you bring to work? And at home, you might be just, you might be a lazy bones, like let everyone else figure out the problem. I don't care where we go on vacation. Someone just plan the trip. But at work, you might be like, this is how we need to do it. And this is how we need to do it in a certain order. So what we're going to do today is we're going to jump into some of our scenarios that we like to present for you and talk about HR problems and solutions that are often facilitated by the chess player type. And the first problem we're going to talk about is a need for strategic integration of diversity, equity, inclusion programs. This is a real life issue that a lot of people are facing. And we already talked about that today. Actually, we did a workshop earlier today, a live workshop, and we talked a little bit in one of our examples how implementing DEI can be challenging and how we bring some tools and techniques to help make that easier based on creating balance and alignment in your staff. But when you need to implement this program, when you're uncertain how to embed DEI into your current operations, what might the chess player do for you?
Exactly. So the first thing the chess player is going to do is analyze the status within the company of your particular program, in this case, DEI. So they want to identify what are the gaps, what are potential areas of concerns, so that they can create a strategy for improvement. And so they will spend a lot of time gathering information, conducting interviews, surveys. They will try to get a pulse of the organization, and they will literally map out, based on the information that they receive, a strategy. Oftentimes they will take that strategy and break it into phases. So they might say, well, the pre-phase is gather all the information. We're going to conduct research for the next 3 days. We're going to analyze it and it's very detailed. They will literally present a calendar and you can literally track every single step. And God forbid if they forget something, they will go back and say, well, wait a minute. There are 3 steps here. There's probably 2 sub steps to every step because they do not want to forget or leave out anything. And so they will present oftentimes very complex plans that you have to be careful. Sometimes have to say, okay, do we need to be this detailed? And in their mind, the answer is yes. Because remember, they want to make sure that every single step is accounted for because in their mind, they're literally thinking, what's the next step? And as soon as they get done with phase 1, they're on to phase 2.
And part of that super attention to detail or making, very detailed plans and detailed steps comes from the other part they've already done, which we mentioned, which is identifying the gaps, identifying the areas for improvement, and especially gathering data from those employee demographics, gathering feedback. Because if you have a team of 50, but one person is feeling completely unheard and unincluded in that DEI conversation, it can still make the cart wobble. So they're like, yes, we need to have 1 day of this workshop on XYZ because we know that Jennifer needs to have this conversation. And I know it seems like a lot to make everybody go, but this is part of what is addressing the whole. So again, you have to weigh your choices and how to implement, but if you ask them to take stock, they will take stock.
Yeah, because the thing that they don't want to do is rework. So they'd rather invest heavy on the front end so that by the time they get to the finish line, they're done. They're done with that project. They filed it away. They put it on a bookshelf and they're on to the next one. And so that's why it's very important for them to make sure that it's done correctly the first time. And one of the things about the chess player that I absolutely love, and it's kind of like a love-hate relationship, to be honest with you, is they will be the ones that once you give an answer, they will say, so then what's next? You give an answer. So once that's done, what's next? And if you don't have an answer, don't worry. Guess what? They gave you an opportunity. They will tell you what the next 3 steps should be. And they will say things like this. Well, I was thinking about this, and it seems to me, would you consider, or I think the next step should be ABC, and then EFG, XYZ, because in their mind, they want to literally count the steps throughout the entire process and make sure, as I said before, they didn't forget anything because they're trying to identify the gaps. They want to close the gaps and they want to make sure that it's a success on the front end and not spend a lot of time on the back end doing rework. Because let's face it, most people say, well, good is better than best. And it doesn't have to be best as long as it's good. And they would put it out there and let the market sort of fix the bug. Like Apple does that. Apple will release something. They know it's not where it needs to be. They say, let the market figure out. And we'll just keep releasing patches, okay, to fix it. Whereas the chess player are like, well, why do that? Why don't we just spend the time on the front end and make sure that it's right so that we can move on to the next. We're not just always recreating patches to fix something that we probably should have realized early on.
And I think that's part of the challenge. So, there's 2 sides to every coin.
Yes.
With the talents also comes the inability to predict everything because we're human. One thing you've accidentally left out, one scenario out of millions that you missed, you are going to have to get that feedback from the team, from the market, whatever that is. The feedback will have to come in, but they can offer you a lot of strategies and solutions to prevent at least the earliest and most obvious pitfalls, which is absolutely super helpful. And before we go on too, I just want to touch base again on a couple of things about this assessment and about these personas. So one, we already touched on the fact that your workplace persona might be different from your home persona.
Yes.
So what is the persona in the workplace is different necessarily from your overall personality. Also, there is overlap. It's not completely, we're not here to pigeonhole people. Boy, that is hard to say. See that fast, Lyman?
We're not here to pigeonhole you.
We're also, everyone has percentages of these strengths. And what's another reason why this assessment is different from other assessments in the sense of that it has a lot more to do with team building
Yes.
than team mitigation. It can address both, but tell us why, if you have the opportunity, these are good things to learn when you're building a team.
Yeah, because it takes into account what role you need to play. For example, you might have, let's take a sports team. You might be on defense and be very good at defense, but maybe you also need to work on being on offense. And so what these 5 personas allow a person to do, there's always going to be sort of like your major persona that shows up in the workplace, right? But also you're able to say, well, wait a minute. I know that primarily I'm a cheerleader. I'm always encouraging. I'm an influencer. So that cheerleader is also might be very good at winning trust, and they'll be a good commander. But they may not feel comfortable, and we'll talk about the commander later, they may not feel comfortable in the commander role, but because they've earned the respect of being an encourager, of being a motivator, it might be easier for them to move into the commander role and say, all right, y'all, we need to get this done. Let's go. But they're still going to do it in a cheerleading sort of mode, but they're going to move the project along as an example of where you might switch. Conversely, you may have someone whose natural strength might be, let's say, the construction worker, where they just, worker bee, they want to get things done, get their hands dirty, and they understand the ins and outs because they've been there, they've worked on the line, they've worked on the engine, and now they may have to move into the chess player and saying, okay, because we've done this before, it makes sense that we also troubleshoot this and go to the next level because they're intimately involved with the particular project. They've been in the dirt, they've been in the sand, they know the inner workings of it probably better than anyone from a hands-on perspective. So it's a lot easier for them to anticipate, even though they might feel uncomfortable doing it, but they can at least lend themselves to the next steps in the process because they've done it before.
Absolutely. And that is super valuable for sure. We're going to have to take a really quick break, and then we'll be right back with another scenario for you on corrective action investigation. How is this a practical element in the workplace in HR specifically? If you're having fun with us, enjoying the content today, copy and paste this link to someone else who might enjoy joining us for the show. Even after the fact, the same link will go to the recorded version of what we're streaming now. So share that link with someone. We would absolutely appreciate that. Leave us your comments and questions as well. That is our favorite thing to do, is interact with you directly. So we'll be right back with more on the persona of the chess player. See you in a minute.
Are you ready to elevate your team and organizational effectiveness? Dive into the focused MetaMindset 5 Persona Types Architecture Assessment and discover your unique superpower as a leader or team member. Whether you're a fearless cheerleader, diligent construction worker, calculating chess player, commanding commander, or analytical chemist, this journey of self-discovery will highlight your strengths, sharpen your focus, and propel you towards success. This isn't just a quiz, it's your pathway to unlocking and embracing the potential that will transform your organization. Ready to find out your persona type? Head over to MetaGagement.com to take the assessment now.
Welcome back to MetaGagement, part 2 of today. We're having a great time here talking about the chess player persona in our 5 persona assessment on about your team, whether you're the cheerleader, whether you are the commander, whether you're the construction worker, the chess player, and so on. How do you manifest in your workplace? It may not be how you manifest everywhere. It may not be how you are at home, but what is that primary hat that you wear in the workplace that fits the best? And I'm here, as always, with Dr. Lyman Montgomery. We're talking about the chess player, and we're going to jump into this next scenario, which is about a corrective action and a corrective action investigation. So I'm going to outline the problem briefly. So, one, there could be a significant drop in your team performance and productivity. And this is being brought to your attention, and you are asked to identify and fix the problem. Easier said than done sometimes. And what you realize is that you're going to have to, you need to identify and address those root causes. We just use the root causes in everyday conversation. We forget that, it comes from nature, from roots. My husband, one of his hobbies is viticulture. He loves the process of growing grapes, making wine, all of that. And I don't know if you've ever been on a wine tasting or a wine tour, and you get the tour of the vineyard and how it works and how important it is that the roots are healthy and that they don't have any bad bacteria or usually it's more viruses, things like that growing on the roots. Tubers, you don't want any bad stuff growing on the roots. Are they getting enough water? Are they getting too much water? And then you have hybrids. You're attaching one kind of vineyard stock to a different plant root. So you might have a traditional cab root for your grapes, and you're attaching something that is a different kind of grape. So I am not the viticulture specialist, obviously, but this is what it goes back to, the root causes, because you're going to get what you put together in the roots. Whatever the root situation is, that is how the plant is going to be healthy and grow. So how does the chess player come into this, and why would you want your chess player in your team to take a look at this?
Yeah, you bring up a very good analogy. Too often, people look at the leaves, they look at the branches, and they forget to look at the root, look at the soil. What's nurturing this? What's creating this environment? And going to this example, maybe there's someone on the team that their productivity has dropped off. Maybe there's a behavior issue where you have someone that's really more of a lightning rod on the string. They're contentious. They're hard to get along with. They're confrontational, and it's creating a disruption within the team. Well, if you are, let's say, the HR person and your persona is that of a chess player, and you've been asked to do an investigation to come up with some type of corrective action. Other words, how do we fix this problem? Well, the first thing you need to do is to investigate what the problem is. So the chess player will take a very thorough look. It will interview in the folks. It will do a deep dive into how long this has been going on. They look at the duration, the frequency, how often does this occur? How long has it been going on? When did you first notice this? So they will ask a lot of questions to try to get to the root cause. They will practice what's known as an example, an investigative tool known as the 5 whys. So you give an answer and say, well, why do you think that happened? You give an answer. Well, what do you think led to that? You answer that question. So they would try to go at least 5 questions deep or 5 answers deep to try to get to the root cause. They understand the first 2 or 3 are going to be very surface level answers. So for every answer a person gives, they will ask the question either, why do you think this happened? Why do you think that was a cause? To try to get to what's the underlying root cause of the problem.
This is
Once
like
they've done, yes.
if you've ever had the privilege and opportunity to do some professional therapy, but this is like the psychology of the problem, right?
Yes.
And that it's reverse engineering. It's getting your answer by working from the outside in. So finding what is someone's core root, whether that's in a depression or an addiction or whatever that might happen to be, or a loss, right? Working your way back is, well, what made that happen? What made you believe
Yeah.
that? What made that happen first? So it's just, I call it the psychology of the problem,
Right.
the root
Because
cause.
it's unpacking or it's removing those layers and
Mhm.
causing the person to go deep. Sometimes they would interchange think with feel. They would say, well, how do you feel about what happened? They get an answer. Well, I feel sad. Well, what's causing you to feel sad? Well, I didn't like what John said to me. Well, what did John say to you? Well, John called me an idiot. And this is, well, how long has this been going on? Well, John's been, playing kind of ragging on me for the last 6 months. I'm just fed up with it. So what have you done? Well, I've kind of internalized, really do anything about it. Okay. Because you haven't done anything about it, could this be the reason why you feel sad? Well,
Mm.
that's part of it. So you can kind of see where in this role play, the chess player begins to unpack, but then he's kind of leading the person to understand what's the next step in unpacking until they feel they've reached the bottom and uncovered the real cause of the problem. And so sometimes the real cause of the problem has nothing to do with the team. The real cause of the problem might be, to be honest with you, I've never taken up for myself. And when John called me an idiot, it reminded me of my brother who used to pick on me. Now we've gone from what happened at work. We're all the way back to childhood.
Mhm.
And the person is basically, it's the cumulative effect of not standing up for oneself, feeling pressure, feeling bullied, till they finally, like a pressure cooker, reach that level they're ready to explode. And that's why they kind of went off on John and
Mhm.
now got in trouble because they called John everything outside of John's name.
And this is where, an internal coaching, counseling,
Yes.
psychiatry can be very useful within the business place. And I use it here as an example of how we're diagnosing a more general problem, but it goes even beyond because humans create human problems. So
Yes.
whatever is the sort of the similar psychology to just being an individual human is going to be similar in the problem. And what is really great for the chess player is that, as we always talk about, finding ways to do things with ease. This is fun. This is
Yes.
so satisfying for the chess player. You don't understand. Now, if you're a cheerleader or a construction worker, this might sound like agony to you, like
Oh,
sitting
yes.
down with someone and interrogating them, and like the whole approach. To the chess player, it's like, I'm going to be at ease because this is delightful. I love doing this. I love finding the problem. And me being at ease is going to make the other person more at ease, which is going to make them open up more than if I'm like trying to, stuff a square peg into a round hole kind of
Mm-hmm.
concept.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why having the person who has this natural gift is going to be so much more effective. And
Right.
as the HR professional, and maybe in your case, maybe there's only one of you in your company, which is even tougher. But remember, you also have these people on your teams already, and there's ways to
Yes.
do team problem solving and other things where you ask a particular person to head up that breakout group or that team discussion because this is the kind of challenge you're facing, and they're going to have a natural ability to do it with ease.
Yeah. And the chess player may break that interview into 2 or 3 segments.
Mhm.
They might deal with what's going on at work in one setting. Then they may come back and say, in our next meeting, let's talk about your home environment. Could there be things at home causing this? Because they need that time also to digest and come up with the next set of questions.
Mhm. Mhm.
Eventually, let's say after the second or third interview, they've really unpacked everything. They identified the problem is the person had low self esteem, lacked confidence, and just really fed up with being bullied. And so now they say, okay, we understand that the real issue is you don't feel valued and you felt
Mhm.
again as if you were being attacked. And this is something
Mhm.
you've dealt with. And so what can we do now? So now they start moving into the action mode of saying, so what can we do now to improve so that you don't have another blow up? What are some other ways that you could have dealt with this situation? And when the person said, well, you know what, I probably should have, left the area. Okay, so you would have left the area and have done what? Where would you have gone? Oh, well, I probably would have went to the restroom. Okay. Were you going to the restroom because of a biological need, or were you going to the restroom to talk? What was it about the restroom? Well, I was going to the restroom so I could be kind of alone and kind of look in the mirror and say, pull your stuff together. How often do you do that? So again, they're going deep with even solutions because they want to make sure again that they're not just putting a Band-Aid on a cancer when the real issue is the person needs chemotherapy or surgery. And this is why even with the solutions and they will deep dive and say, let's make sure that we put together a plan that actually is going to benefit a result that you're looking for. And we're not just dealing with the symptoms.
And I think the approach is so critical here of the chess player or the other people or persons on the team doing this if you have an HR team, right? Because the chess player is so analytical and so objective, you can unwittingly make people feel like they are strictly a piece of machinery, a mechanical asset that has a problem that needs to be solved and has a part that needs to be fixed because they're just internally flawed. But what the person wants is to be seen as an actual person.
Yes.
Or not. If you really see the person, you might realize that a certain level of questioning is going to make them extremely uncomfortable, and you may need more time and more meetings to find tactful approaches to this. So, I see a lot of times the strategist, the chess player, it can be a bit like a surgeon, very precision surgery. Well, that's fine if it's a general problem. If it's a person, then use the talent you have in that persona, but maybe combine that with someone else like a cheerleader who has.
I'm glad you said that. Yes,
human touch.
That's a very good approach of saying, my role here is to let's get to the problem, all right? But let's partner with Anne, and she can provide you with some motivation, some meditation. So when you feel that sense of overwhelm, you feel that sense of, reaching a boiling point, that you can have some techniques that you can utilize to help you overcome the situation so that you don't end up, flying off the handle, which again is not productive for anyone.
Right. And also just to helping the person understand that they are not the problem. It's not that they're inherently flawed in some way. Like, can't you just get your act together? Right. It's not that they're the inherent problem. It's that we're here to support you in finding a solution. Because when you're at your best, the company's at their best, we all have more fun at work. There's less confrontation in meetings. So, how can we? It's about alignment, our favorite word here in engagement. It's absolutely about alignment. So how can we bring your needs and challenges into alignment with the team, into alignment with whatever challenge we're facing, so that we can make this more full of ease for everyone and you? So we're not solving you as a problem. We're saying, how can we find, and granted, alignment can mean compromise. You can't go in two opposite directions all the time and ever find alignment. And as we always say, you don't have to always be in formal agreement that you agree exactly about how something is going to proceed. But you can be in alignment and at least find a way to move in the same direction. Because if you're not, your car ain't going nowhere.
That's a very good point. And that's why I like what you said as far as the alignment piece is I would not necessarily put a commander as the lead investigator, because the commander could come off like this. Listen, you went off on John. We're not going to have it. It's against policy. I got to write you up for it. Don't let it happen again. Any questions? No, bye. Sign this.
Right? No, it's true. And this is where it's even fun finding and exploring ways to do this, and finding parts of people in your team, even aspects of yourself that can take these things into consideration and make it more of a positive experience for everyone.
Yeah.
And so, wow, our time has flown. We're already at the end, as always seems to happen to us, Lyman, because we just have so much fun and get going, and then like, oh no, we have to put on the brakes already. But it's a good problem to have. So,
Yes.
excuse me. We want to thank everyone for joining us here today. We hope you took away some value with what we discussed about the persona of the chess player and where those people who have that strong persona can be useful in your team, in your situation, solving problems, dealing with people from an HR perspective. Again, if you enjoyed us, please share this link with someone else in HR who would benefit from this conversation. We'd love to have them join our community, join our conversation. And you as well, please leave your comments and messages, like and subscribe. That's partly how we can keep this content coming to you. And as always, we are going to be streaming again this same time next week on whatever platform you're watching. And that is, Lyman, can you read us these streaming dates? Because my notes have disappeared.
Hey, you know what? I think it's Tuesdays.
Yes, it's Tuesday. So I think it's 11 a.m.
Tuesdays,
Eastern.
11 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. What's that? Pacific time,
3 p.m.
and 3 p.m. Mountain time.
No, GMT.
GMT, sorry.
UK time. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure because this is a new time slot. And thank you for bearing with us as we transition, but no, my keyboard has frozen, so I cannot.
Yes, so 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
There you go.
And for our friends across the pond, 3 p.m. GMT. I'm sorry,
Excellent.
I just saw the MT part.
And if you can't watch us live stream, you can always watch the same link, which you can find on your socials, LinkedIn, etc. Or this link that you have right now. You can always share that. It can always be watched afterwards. So join us again next time. We are going to talk about which persona, Lyman?
Ooh, the commander.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the commander. You're going to enjoy this one. The commander isn't always the top dog. Let's see how that works. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming by.
Take care. Bye-bye.